What if the reason you're restless at your job isn't because you're ungrateful, but because you're unassigned? What if that tension in your chest every Monday morning, the dread, the frustration, the longing for more isn't rebellion? What if it's revelation? Here's the hard truth. Too many of us confuse security with calling. We settle for a paycheck when God is trying to hand us a purpose. And if you're watching this, chances are you've asked yourself the exact same question I once did. God, is this business thing really from you, or is it just my ambition? In this video, I'm gonna walk you through how to know if God has called you into entrepreneurial work. Not the fluff, not manifest your millions, not hustle for approval nonsense. I'm talking about 7 biblically grounded filters you can use to run your ideas, your desires, and your daily life through to know if this entrepreneurial pull is from God or if it's just your ego trying to hustle in disguise. So grab a notebook, because by the end of this, you're going to have clarity you can pray over, journal through, and if confirmed, actually act on. Hi. My name is Christian Graham, co-founder of Maricross Media and the MK Lab, and business authority coach to 6, 7, and yes, even 8-figure entrepreneurs. And in this channel, I don't just teach business tactics, I teach kingdom entrepreneurs how to discern calling, build magnetic brands, and multiply impact, income, and influence. Because here's the truth, entrepreneurship isn't just about revenue streams, it's about stewardship. It's about taking what God's already placed in your hands, your gifts, your story, your testimony, and multiplying it to serve others with. And yet, confusion around calling keeps so many entrepreneurs stuck. The second guess, they stall, they say, maybe one day. But scripture is clear. God doesn't play hide and seek with your assignment. He reveals it through patterns, through burdens, through peace, through alignment. Right? God is not a God of confusion. And so today, I'm breaking down to you how you can know with confidence if God has called you into entrepreneurial work. The first and loudest sign is what I call holy discontentment. It's that gnawing sense that this can't be all there is. On a paper, your job looks fine. You're good at it. You're even rewarded for it. But inside, you feel restless. That isn't laziness. That's ingratitude. That's God's alarm clock. Think of Moses. He grew up in Pharaoh's palace with privilege, but he couldn't ignore the suffering of his people. The discontent wasn't rebellion. It was divine agitation, right? Nehemiah had a comfortable position as a cupbearer to the king, secure, safe, but when he heard about Jerusalem's broken walls, he couldn't sit still. That burden pulled him into action. So you need to ask yourself, can I see myself doing this current job at 75 years old with joy? If yes, maybe stay planted. If no, if it fills you with dread instead of peace, that's holy discontent. And that's God saying, I've wired you for more. I remember a time when I was at a Fortune 500 company working as a project manager, right? I remember going to work 2 weeks straight and just dreading going to work every single day. I would actually wake up and get in the car after getting ready, and I would drive to work crying. Even though I'm listening to worship music, even though I'm praying and trying to release that burden onto God, I remember just, waking up every single day, just crying, right? Going to work. And that's when I just finally realized that I needed to step out and step into the very thing that I'm doing now. I mean, it took me a while to get right here into this studio to be able to speak this message to you guys, but it was through that faithful obedience that I was able to finally make it to this point. And realizing that that holy discontent, it really wasn't for me. I wasn't meant to be in that place. And God had me for a specific assignment for a time just as this to be right here to speak to you guys. And so with that being said, I have a practical step for you guys, right? Write 2 lists. On the left, write every single task, responsibility, and environment at work that drains you. And on the right, the kind of work that impacts and excites you. Through this, you'll start to see patterns. That's the Spirit pointing out the gap between where you are and where you're called to. Here's the second way you know. People are already asking you for help in the area you feel drawn to. Before God gives you a company, He usually gives you a congregation or people to shepherd. Proverbs 18:16 says, "A man's gift makes room for him." Notice, it doesn't say his resume, it's his gift. If your inbox, your texts, your casual conversations are filled with people asking for advice, asking for your skill, asking for your insight, that's not coincidence, that's confirmation. So here's some self-check questions. Have people told you should really charge for this? Do you feel drained because you're serving everyone for free? Are you seeing fruit from the transformation in people just from your natural gifting? If so, God may be showing you the demand for your service, right? And through your gift. The market is waiting for you to formalize what you've already been giving away, and don't hide from it. Here's the third sign: repetition. God rarely speaks once. He confirms through patterns, right? Through repeated whispers. Joseph's dreams were doubled. Daniel interpreted repeated visions. Even Jesus often said, "Truly, truly." When I was resisting building a platform, I kept hearing the same word, platform, from pastors, friends, podcasts. At first, I thought it was ego, but then I saw Luke 5:3. Jesus borrowed Peter's boat as a platform to preach. That repetition broke my resistance, right? So here's a practical step. Start a God hints journal. Every time a verse, phrase, or nudge repeats itself, write it down, date it, and over time, you'll see undeniable patterns. And here's the key. Confirmation often dries up once you obey. Because God doesn't confirm for entertainment, he confirms to get you moving. Now here's some guardrails that you can put up as boundaries. Not every business idea is a God idea. So Colossians 3:17 says, whatever you do, do it unto the Lord, right? Ask yourself, could Jesus bless this business model? If it depends on manipulation, deception, or exploitation, it's not him. Period. Here's a checklist for alignment. Does this solve a real human need? Does it require integrity even when nobody's watching? Does it create value instead of hype? Does it free me to be generous with the fruit? If the answer is yes across the board, this may be your call that you're aligned. If not, you may need to pivot to a new model, not your morals. And here's another overlooked sign. The process itself grows you spiritually. Romans 5 says, tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance produces character. Character produces hope. That's entrepreneurship. If building your business has forced you to pray more, depend on God more, and grow in patience, humility, and stewardship, you're probably in his classroom. I used to see sales calls as stressful, and now I see them as an opportunity, right? Moments to serve, moments to listen for God's prompting. Even my spreadsheets became discipleship tools, reminding me to tithe and give generously, and also to just sow into somebody else. Sow a seed, water a seed. All right, so here's a reflection question for you. How has entrepreneurship already grown your faith, even in small ways? That fruit matters more than your metrics. This is critical because God rarely gives you the courage first. He asks for your obedience first, right? He asked for your faith. And so David didn't get courage until he stepped onto the battlefield. The disciples didn't get boldness until they left their nets behind. You won't feel ready. You'll feel stretched. And in that stretch, courage will eventually show up. Zechariah 4:10 says, do not despise small beginnings. So here's a practical step. Don't wait for full funding or a flawless plan. Start small, sell one product, serve one client, test one offer. Obedience precedes courage. Finally, one of the clearest signs is peace that makes no sense on paper. Philippians 4:7 puts it like this: the peace that surpasses all understanding. When I left my corporate job, the numbers didn't add up. My friends thought I was crazy. My family thought I was crazy. Fear screamed, but peace whispered and said, you're covered. And through that peace, that carried me through the risk. And so here's something for you to test. After deciding, can you sleep at night? Do you still feel settled in your spirit even when the spreadsheets or the business plan or the security says otherwise? If yes, that may be God's green light. Sit there and listen, intertwine yourself, and wait on God to respond back. So let's recap. How do you know if God is calling you into entrepreneur work? Look at these signs: holy discontentment, people are already pulling on your gift, repeated confirmation, biblical alignment, spiritual growth, courage after obedience, and peace in your risk. If even one of these is showing up in your life, don't ignore it. Write it down, pray over it, seek wise counsel, then take the next step in your faithfulness. You see, because entrepreneurship isn't just about building wealth. It's about building witness. It's about creating impact, income, and influence that advances the kingdom's territory. And if one of these signs hit home for you, comment the number below. I'll pray over every single comment that I see there. And if you want to take a deeper dive and have a deeper guide at all of this, check out my new newsletter, The Turnkey. The link is in the description. And finally, subscribe if you want to learn not just how to build a business, but how to build a movement with God at the center of it. Remember this, you don't need to hustle for worth. You already carry heaven's brand. You are called. Now start small, step in faith, and let Him make it big. Stay blessed, stay grounded. Let's grow. Peace.